The Gifted Season 2 Episode 10 Thoughts. This episode is called Enemy of My Enemy with 3 capital M's. Spared no expense. Another episode I love. Spoilers for everything live-action X-Men leading up to and including this episode. The episode, I want to say the age rating is 12+, so this video... Yes, same thing for this video. And yeah, let's dive right in. So, yes, let's start with the... the purifier thing. Really, really tense with the, them torturing John. Jace asks, he's just asking questions, and, John says, Andy and Lorna left. There's something called the inner circle. These various things, and I guess he hadn't said about the inner circle, but at one point, Jace is like, "Do you hear how ridiculous that sounds?" And just if John just had Deadpool-like awareness, he could be like, "Dude, we're in a comic book adaptation. This is the melodrama is not that intense considering that." I love comics and related media. And, at one point, like, Ted makes this kind of, veiled threat against John, and, Jace, like, looks, and there's just this, look on his face that's like, I can't believe I'm working with this guy. That was the worst quip I've ever heard. And then not long after, it's Ted's turn to be like, dude, are you serious? That was terrible. You gotta work on that. And, they think that he's just lying. And for a while, he refuses to say anything at all. So, they put on the headphones to torture his super hearing. And, like, the soundtrack says that it's, like, really loud, heavy metal. I wonder if there's an earlier version of the script where he's being forced to listen to, like, Daily Wire, Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, maybe some Tenet. Until mysteriously the Tenet just stops. I don't know. Maybe they're victims of something. Maybe not. And let's see. Yeah, I thought they did a really great job just gradually making, intensifying those scenes, and by the end, like, Jace is really extremely angry, and he is basically blaming John for everything, all the things he lost, not realizing, maybe by the end of the season, or maybe they would have done it if the show had gotten more than 2 seasons, but at this point, he's not willing to admit that he bears some responsibility. His wife gave him a chance to let it go. That's why he lost her, because he refused to let it go. Let's see. And, and his whole crusade started with the death of his daughter, which John had nothing to do with. But that is how it often is when, we all get angry. Everybody, it's not wrong necessarily to like sometimes get angry. What I would like you to take away from this is, if you find yourself extremely angry at an individual or even group of people, this is, I've done this myself. Just take a step back and think, is this disproportionate? Am I actually this angry at just this individual or this particular group of people? Or am I putting something, is this like the cumulative anger of a lot of different injustices, Because, for sure, Jace's daughter dying was an injustice. It was a horrible tragedy, but John didn't do that and isn't making excuses for it, And I think... So there's a little more with the purifiers, but I think I want to talk... No, yeah, I think I will finish this video off with the climax of the... Even though that definitely involves the purifiers. And let's see... Right, yeah, really intense when, yeah, Jace thinks he's been lied to. He's like, Lorna is out there trying to rescue right now, and she's with Marcos. Which, yeah, that does sound like John was lying, like buying time. For all Jason, Jace doesn't say it, but he's probably thinking, you were just buying time, knowing that they were on their way. When really, John had no idea. Like, how could he possibly have guessed? They don't have Sage anymore. If Sage was still with the Mutant Underground, he would probably have figured it's just a matter of time before they find me, and, they're gonna come bust me out. I really, based on his demeanor in the Purifier scenes, I don't think he was thinking in those terms at all. And yeah, I mean, Marco's using Fade as, trading Fade for information, and Lorna agreeing, and Sage helping, yeah, these are things that John would not have guessed. Marco's does have a dark side. It's pretty intense to use, like, at the end of the day, Fade, he was careful not to injure either of them, even though it would, John or Marcos, even though it would have aided his escape. And he really only defended himself. I'm not saying that John and Marcos were wrong in stopping Fade, but, yeah, one could, one can understand why John didn't necessarily, his mind didn't go there. And let's see, and yeah, like, hypothetically, if he hadn't been captured, if somebody else had been captured, I think John might... I suppose there's a chance he would have been on board, at least eventually. But I think early on, he might have raised objections, as we did see some of the people present, yeah, make objections. And yeah, like, John is not 100% bulletproof, and, yeah, if if just a little bit does get through, and clearly some of it did at least pierce his skin. He wasn't bleeding that much, so it doesn't seem to have gone much further than skin. But yeah, I mean, enough trauma to someone's torso can kill them. People have died from trauma to the torso that didn't rupture skin. If the force from the shotgun, and at that range, and such a, he's not just being grazed, it's point blank, and all of the pellets are hitting him. None of them are missing. Yeah, like, eventually it could do enough damage to some of his internal organs that he dies from that, And yeah, they say, one more shot would have killed you, and Jace was trying to make that shot, and I think he knows that would have killed him. But, runs out of shotgun shells, and, I just want a certain someone to pop up, tilt their head slightly, and go. Now, let's see. Yeah, and, at the end, one of the purifiers is like, oh, you're not going to believe what they did. You'll never guess what they did to, what was it, Eddie? Bubonic plague? And Jace says, it's nothing compared to what we're going to do to them. Now, let's talk Struckers. So, I really appreciate that Lauren is not just, like, the parents literally open arms welcome Andy back. Lauren is a little bit more, you know, apprehensive. And let's see, right, I appreciate, this thing about, yeah, he's still reaching out in his dreams, as we've seen earlier. He every so often he does say, he does express through those that he, like, he doesn't want his family dead, for example. He's not completely, yeah, he doesn't see it as him abandoning them. He sees it as them not agreeing to take the necessary steps, basically. But he does miss them, and yeah, the two Strucker, the parents are like, maybe he wants to come home, and Lauren's like, he just sounded lost. And that's not the same thing. I appreciate, that is a very good choice of words. Yeah. And let's see, yeah, they're very, the parents are parenting all over the place. You changed your hair, you're so tall, I missed you. That was very sweet. That's, yeah, that's, parents, that's it's, they know some of the terrible things he's done in the 6 months, but yeah, they still love him. I'm not saying all parents do, and certainly, if you are in a situation where you feel like your parents are abusive, there's no shame in reaching out and addressing that situation. But a lot of parents do love their kids and are willing to, accept a lot from them. Now, let's see what. Yeah, also when they're, when they're in the right, we have flak jackets. I remember when you used to buy me ties. And once they're in the car, they're yeah, talking to Andy, and yeah, Lauren is like trying to avoid, and let's see, I think that does bring us to the no, I'm still saving the climax for, I'm building tension to the climax. Yeah, I suppose the one more thing about Andy Strucker. I really appreciated when he talks to Lorna and he points out, isn't this what we're fighting for? This is, because they don't see themselves as the bad guys. They think of themselves as the good guys who are willing to go far enough to get results. And how can you call yourself one of the good guys if you're not going to try to save? Because, like, at the end of the day, they don't think John goes too far enough, but, it would be ridiculous to claim that he's not fighting for mutants. And let's see, I think that does right, the thing about, you're driving now, you missed learning from me in the minivan, and, he says, well, smashed up a couple of bumpers, but we, eventually I learned how to drive. Let's see. I appreciate the subtle detail that at the start of or early in the episode at least, Reed is driving again because, with that damn medicine, he is able to without, crashing again. And I suppose that covers the Struckers. So I don't have a lot when it comes to Marcos and Lorna. It was very sweet in the flashback, and John, at least he told them, and I don't think he was meaning to listen in. And maybe he's a little annoyed that Lorna is cheating. And I do really appreciate, he's like, nobody's breaking any bylaws here. I just, it's okay that you're together. You should tell me, this does affect things, but, You know, nobody's getting kicked out. You're not getting reprimanded. It's for having a relationship, at least. And, you know, yeah, they're at the end of the episode. Like, we all see it come, you know, this, you know, they're like, okay, that was close. Yeah, that was close. You know, like, just, brr. Wow, that's, I feel, you know, oh, you're not, try not to melt the camera with your burning passion, you know. But, yeah, shortly after, you know, she starts to leave, and obviously, you know, one of them is gonna say something, and yeah, they do kiss because they do still love each other. You know, they say that they hate each other now. You know, I did also quite appreciate the music in the car. At first I was like, this is an interesting choice of music for, you know, they're headed to an action scene of this, you know, and then we realized, oh, it's diegetic, and you know, like I think there was even like, you know, what was it, like fun summer playlist or something they're playing, you know, and like you know, Lorna turns it off and Marcos is like, I was listening to that, you know, and she's, yeah, you clearly you like that song. He's like, better than silence. And, you know, Clarice is off in the bang, you know, staring out the window like, I should have gone with the fun V. Can't believe I got stuck in the boring car. I'm not going to understand any of the references, even if they feed me a strawberry. And yeah, you know, as usual, she cuts right through the BS, and I forget. I think it's Lorna who's like, Clarice, a little too close. Step back, split the difference. And I think that covers them. So I suppose that does more or less just leave the climax. I feel like, is there anything else? Because that is... Yeah, I think that leaves just the climax, which some of the best action in the show so far. Really, really great. Love seeing use of so many mutant powers. Love seeing such strategery use of mutant powers. You know, like the it's reminiscent of the first two X-Men movies, and certainly not the third one. And let's see, well, there's a little bit in the third one, but like, come on. Why is Magneto waiting forever to deal with Wolverine and Colossus in the climax? Like, wow, just, there's no way he would have done that in the first, like in the first movie, he literally specifically, as soon as Wolverine is within range, every single time they meet, he immediately takes him out. Like, there's no screwing around there. That was also, this did remind me of of X2, where, you know, yeah, by necessity, they team up. Like, even, you even have the fact that, like, Lorna's powers are very reminiscent of Magneto's, since, yeah. And let's see. Albeit Andy's are nothing like Mystique's. Yeah. The idea of using, you know, of doing a I can't believe I'm blanking on the word. It's a distraction, ready for action. And yeah, you know, just this thing of, you know, detonating the mines, which is of course, yeah, you know, the once you know where a mine is, applying pressure, you know, I'm sure in real life a laser would work. And I mean, we don't see it, and I don't think the mines were visible, but I think the idea is supposed to be that right before he starts lasering mines, she sensed where they were with her powers and told him exactly where they were so that they wouldn't have to deal with that during, because is she really going to stand there and sense mines while she also has to stop bullets? Like, this... been there, tried that, didn't work out. And, I mean, I think we've all been there at one point in our lives. And let's see, yeah, and I do appreciate, you know, they called themselves a militia in the episode before. this one, which I also quite appreciate. That and the fact that there's crosses on the walls and such, because they think they're warriors for Christ. Conservative Christians will always warp positive messages in the Bible to justify the hatred, bigotry, and the violence they want to commit. I'm not saying every single individual one, but that is what we've seen that a lot in America in recent years. And let's see they call themselves a militia. Letting yourselves be distracted like that is not good, tactically speaking. It's not like they think there's only one mutant out there other than John. They know there's a bunch of these. They know that like 6,000 were just released from prisons, and they're gonna run all of them to the one place. But yeah, that's a lot of these yahoos. They have no idea what they're doing. They're cosplaying. They've grown up with all this media that glorifies violence, and I'm not saying I enjoy none of it. I am myself somewhat guilty of that, but I know better than to try to act it out in real life, But yeah, they all have this idea that they're gonna be, Dirty Harry or Rambo or something. Rambo in one of the sequels, not as much the first one. But let's see. Yeah, and, the Struckers working together again. It's been a while since we saw that, but they are really good together. And yeah, it's very cool. He's, like, throwing people. She's, like, blocking bullets with her shields. And I think at one point she makes a shield and uses it to push someone also. That was quite cool. And let's see. That more or less covers the action part. Yeah, eventually they get to John and, get him, in part using a portal, get him back to safety. But just before, this one guy, more enthusiasm than sense, fires a gun at these mutants that have literally they just got done, cutting through all your buddies like a hot knife made of adamantium, heated by a laser, through very sensitive butter. And you're actually gonna try that. Yeah, if he wasn't a purifier, I'd almost admire him. And yeah, Andy, you're gonna shoot my sister. You're gonna shoot my sister in the back. Try to kill my sister. And yeah, he starts flipping him off. Over. Which, maybe he's just worried that this guy gets bed sores extremely quickly. Let's be honest, there's probably at least one mutant out there who does. Some of them absolutely draw the worst power in the mutant X gene lottery. There's probably a Princess and the Pea mutant out there. But yeah, he miseries the guy. The legs are not the best CG the show has had so far, but fair enough. There's a lot of practical stuff in this episode and in the action scenes. Dealing with prosthetic, special effect. I'm not talking about, I can't speak to prosthetic limbs, people who actually need them, but the kind of, it can be kind of a hassle on a shoot. So yeah, they went with the CG. And Lauren is telling him to stop, and he is supposedly doing it for her, and yet it takes a while for him to stop. And yeah, this, like with Jace earlier in the episode, this is him taking out all of his frustration, because this one guy didn't do all of those things. Like, he supported a lot of it, but, you know, and this is also, you know, Andy was bullied for a while in school before the mutant powers, before the pilot, at least. And no, yeah, I think that was the first time his powers manifested, from what I recall. It's been a little while since I watched the pilot, but yeah, you know, this is him taking out all of that frustration on this one guy. And yeah, you know, after they get back, you know, he actually is like, did you see that? He's gonna think twice before, you know, he actually thinks that they're gonna be in favor of that his family would think that that was right, you know. And yeah, I mean, he's been with the inner circle for more than half a whole year now. This is the kind of thing, you know, because they think it's, you know, perhaps, to be fair, I can imagine Riva might have thought that was at least a little gratuitous, but they do take some enjoyment in the violence they cause. They don't see it as a necessary evil like the mutant underground do. And, you know, he wasn't exactly de-escalating. Like, the moment that, you know, let's see, he knocks the guy down and he pretty quickly gets the gun out of his hand. Like, at that point, he doesn't need to do anything. Like, if you're really that worried, like, you know, use your power, pick up the gun, throw it in the water. You know, at that point, the guy's not going to be able to do anything, you know. Like, tell you what, if he at that point is, like, still trying to, like, run at you or something, like, yeah, just, like, I don't know, knock him down one more time, and then just get away from there while he's, you know, getting back up. But, you know, they had won. They were just about to escape. You know, once the gun is out of the guy's hand, he's not posing a threat. It is sadistic. It's torture, basically. And yeah, I really appreciate, you know, at that point, yeah, you know, Lauren is not the only one who, you know, has some, you know, it's mostly looks more than words, and they are trying to talk him back, talk him down. But yeah, you know, and he is not okay with how they're looking at him, and you know, one can understand he's been rejected by a lot of people. And he goes off on a rant that is indistinguishable from what the purifiers say, you know, and that is sadly, and I appreciate that the show doesn't feel that, you know, it would, maybe there's an earlier draft, but, you know, by the time this episode went to air, I'm almost certain the Disney Plus version is the aired version, the version that aired on TV. You could so easily have had one of the other Struckers go, you sound just like one of them right now, or, you know, you sound like a purifier, something like that, you know. But yeah, it's, you know, we the audience can tell, like, he's literally saying we have to take them all out, you know. If they have children, they'll spread their poison, you know. And he's talking about words, he's talking about ideology, where they talk about mutant, you know, the genes and such. And to be clear, I'm not saying that he actually is as bad as purifiers. And after all, the purifiers did start this entire conflict. But he is going way too far. And, like, you know, the moment that you start talking about people's kids being, you know, like, I suppose he didn't say that he wanted to take out children specifically, but he said we can't let them have children. So there is an implication, and he does say, you know, they'll spread their poison to the children, and maybe he means, like, when those children grow up, they'll be dangerous, but he's still talking about children, like, you know, that is, and I don't think that's accidental. I think the show is very intentionally, you know, and again, the purifiers say that as well. They also talk about, you know, we can't let them reproduce. They'll, you know, they will replace us. You know, you don't say that about people you don't expect to have any offspring, you know, that's, yeah, the notion there, the whole white replacement, you know, ridiculous conspiracy theory is based on the idea of in part of breeding, you know, immigration and the immigrants reproducing. Let's see, but yeah, you know, whenever I hear someone talk about, you know, even their children are dangerous, you know, first thing that pops into my head is the French Revolution, which, as I've said before, I think something needed to be done, and I can appreciate that, you know, the royal, you know, the royals and nobility weren't really listening to just speech, you know, to more, yeah, to less intense means. But once they had captured, once the revolutionaries had captured all these people, it was completely unnecessary to just be executing all of them. Like, you know, and especially once it came to executing children, you know, it's just there's no excuse. You know, and you do of course also have something like the Holocaust. You know, yeah, the moment that you start targeting children, it just, yeah. And yeah, you know, I think it's Caitlin who says, you don't really believe that. And I forget his exact response, but he pretty much does say, no, I do. This is me now, you know. And yeah, I know I've said it in earlier videos on this show, on this season, it's going to be difficult to get Andy back. I hope they're able to, because I do think he could still be, you know, redeemed. But yeah, and you know, Caitlin straight up says the only way to get him back is to destroy the inner structure. I think it was her. It was one of the Struckers, at least. And yeah, you know, there at the end, she has one of the guns. I'm thinking that was one of the guns that they got for the mission. So yeah, she is preparing for violence. She is going full mama bear. Now, what was the other? See, that's it. Yes, the 6,000. You know, so we now got a number, and you know, yeah, that I'm thinking one of the next episodes is going to show the chaos that's going to cause. I guess there's 6 or 7 episodes left, something like that. And let's see, yeah, I really appreciate, you know, let's see, it's Lorna and Andy talking about it. I forget who says what, but one of them points out most of those people were innocent, you know, and yeah, of course, you know, the host is claiming, you know, he says they're murderers and rapists, and now they're loose in our neighborhoods. He doesn't even bother to say some I assume are good people. You know, like, yeah. Nobody ever accused the show of being subtle.